Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our Clawson City Council meeting of Tuesday, July 21st. I'd like to call the meeting to order, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have the invocation by Reverend Ray Shearback from the Shepherd Lutheran Church. You all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our God and Lord, we are in need of your mercy, your grace. We've not been obedient to you individually or as a nation. Because of our own indifference and selfishness, we've turned away from you and from one another. Have mercy on us, Lord, on our city, our state, our nation. Give us insight into our individual and national failures and weaknesses. Make all citizens aware of their responsibility to serve you and one another. Oh God, make our community a place of peace and safety. Bless our mayor, our leaders, with the courage and the commitment to make God-pleasing decisions and reject that which is wrong. We thank you for all your mercies, your blessings, your forgiveness, which are new to us every day. We pray for your grace. Assure us of our Redeemer's love and forgiveness. Give hope to those who have no freedom. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Loops, Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Here.
Councilmember Woolley. Here.
Begin with consideration of the following consent agenda. Minutes of the regular City Council meeting held on Tuesday, March 7th, 2017 is presented. And minutes of a City Council workshop meeting we had at Tuesday, March 14th, 2017 is presented.
Mayor, I move the consent agenda be approved as listed.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Yes.
To begin with, before we go to item 6, I'd like to bring up our city prosecutors, Rennis and Eriks. They're going to tell us a little bit about what they do here in town. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to appear here today. Mr. Newshine and I are happy to attend. We've had a lot of work with Mr. Kingsep in revising and reviewing some of the sections of the city ordinance, the municipal code, which will be discussed, I believe, at the next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, with some of the revisions we made to existing ordinances. And there was a lot of ordinances that we were going to repeal. That was partially motivated by Councilman Ulbricht, who suggested we look at those things, and there were quite a few things that we had to repeal. So we will be providing information to council, and I think Mr. Kingsep already has that with respect to what we would like to repeal, things that we've added to, and I think maybe a few meetings down the road, we will also have some new ordinances that Mr. Newshine has been working on also, which we'll think will help streamline a lot of the law enforcement activities and just general regulatory activities in the community. I think make things a little easier for everybody. We also have been extremely involved recently with all the FOIA operations. The Clawson Police Department, Mary, her last name Starin, has been submitting all of the FOIA requests to her office for review. She's done a good job of redacting. A lot of the materials are being sent to people seeking information by way of FOIA. We're just reviewing one last time these materials before they go out, just to make sure there's no issues with any type of FOIA lawsuits or any type of FOIA issues that are generally unpleasant to our community.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for, it's a pleasure appearing once again before you, and we always look forward to coming back every time. This was Councilmember Ulbricht's questions with respect to some of these ordinances really did help us in thinking about some of those ordinances that we have on our books that have been there for a while, but for a myriad of reasons no longer serve a purpose, and we thought we'd utilize this time wisely. At the same time, while we're reviewing the old ordinances, perhaps update some others with respect to updating some of the fines and costs that we have associated with ordinances, particularly with civil infractions and misdemeanors, that there were appropriate fines a generation ago, but no longer are. So we will provide that information to you, and we're, of course, always looking for your input as well. We're always accessible to you, so whenever you need to reach us, by all means, please do.
Thank you. Any questions?
Let me just say this, and I will not disclose my sources, but I am informed that the judges before whom these young men appear are very satisfied with the performance and professionalism that they exhibit on behalf of Clausen. Also, they're innovative in connection with looking at new ordinances, and you'll see those in April. And furthermore, they are working industriously on our blight ordinances. You know, before we used to go into circuit court, and when you go into circuit court, it becomes very expensive, both to the property owner as well as the city. And our goal is not to incur expense on behalf of the property owner when we do go into court on nuisance blight matters. It's after a protracted effort of our code enforcement try to work with the property owner. So it's not an instantaneous reaction. We've now looked at, instead of considering a civil infraction where the amount of recovery is minimal, that we may issue misdemeanors where we can actually recover the costs the city incurs for abating the nuisance. There's no reason why the public should assume that expense out of taxpayer dollars when the cause of the problem itself was the property owner. And so we've been very assiduous in looking forward and doing that. And from my past experience, the highest we've ever done is $48,000. And we recovered that money. And the house was renovated. You can't believe it, but the house was renovated after we went through it and cleaned it out. But that is somehow situations can arise like that, where you're in five figures to actually, on a private residence, clean it out. And you would be amazed at what is stored and where it's stored, and you think, why is it there? But those are some of the issues we have. And they're very industrious in working with us on being in the forefront on those recoveries.
Fantastic. Let me take care of Bowman later then.
I've got one question, and it's about redacted information when someone FOIAs. How do we redact? I imagine it's all done on the computer. But what do we pay? I assume that we have to provide the information provided it's reasonable, but what is not reasonable when they ask for 200 pages, 100 pages, 50 pages?
No, it's not the volume. It is the subject matter that's sought. And sometimes the instance, there are FOIA requests where they want information on maybe all kinds of particular tickets that were issued. That type of search you can generally attack because it's basically a search by a lawyer for information to develop a client base. Others, though, have a legitimate purpose behind it. For instance, if you have someone that's arrested and there are a number of charges against them, a sharp lawyer representing them will do a FOIA request. FOIA requests will deal with training materials, the incident reports, the police reports, and the other extraneous information that was generated by the police department in connection with that particular situation. Mm-hmm. We redact telephone numbers of witnesses and sometimes appropriately names if there are circumstances that justify it, like a fear of retaliation that may show up in the report. But it's very limited now, unfortunately, because the legislature is seen fit to be more open, and sometimes that can really be disastrous in the criminal prosecution area.
That's true. That's true. We also redact lien information, criminal history information.
Yeah.
Sure.
Obviously, we don't submit that out there. But other than that, it is very open.
So there's no limit to the number of pages as long as it's a reasonable request.
That's right.
We haven't come across those type of issues so far. We've been intervening in the FOIA issues for roughly about a month. We haven't had any issues where talking volume of documents has even been an issue. It's mostly police reports mostly by defense attorneys who are looking to get additional information. So we haven't really come across anything with volume or anything of asking for things that are outside of the scope of FOIA yet that we would not produce to someone.
And we did have one incident. I mean, there are some lawyers who feel that starting a FOIA action gets them additional remuneration because maybe their client hasn't paid them all the retainer they want. And if they succeed on a FOIA request, we have to pay their fees. And we recently had such a request. And I'm a person who's very patient, so I never get upset. But when the lawyer told me to deliver the documents to his office and then we discuss the fee, there were certain thoughts that went through my mind that I did not express about that statement. Fortunately, that lawyer never went forward on his FOIA suit, and he saw the rationale behind the fallacy in the suit itself, and it was dismissed. But the suit was filed so he could get additional fees.
The amount we can charge for copies and FOIA requests has also been dictated recently by the courts, hasn't
very
it?
much
And it's
so.
come
Yeah.
down on what we can
Very much
actually charge per page.
It's true.
It means time of staff,
limiting.
copying,
That was the reasonable fees.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you,
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much.
Hopefully we'll see more of you.
Yes, anytime you need us.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you, Eric Myrenas.
Thanks for your work.
I'd like to bring Sergeant Kelly Bouse up.
So we have a cop walk instead of a crop walk.
This is a cop walk, yeah, crop walk, sir.
Tonight, I'm here to introduce our 8th annual Bowl-a-thon. It's a scholarship fundraiser. We established this event in 2010 to give recognition to seniors graduating from Clawson High School in our community or who live in the city and attend another high school and wish to pursue a career within the criminal justice system. And so we established this program in 2010. Since then, we've raised around $35,000 for seniors graduating in our community to use at an institution where they would like to pursue their degree from. So this year, our fundraiser is being held at Bowl One Lanes in Troy. It's on Saturday, April 15th at 9 p.m. is the actual bowling start time. Check-in begins at 8, and if people would like to pre-register for the event, they can do so. There is a flyer that they can pick up here in City Hall. It can be picked up at the police department. It can be picked up at the Clawson High School, and it's also on our city's webpage. It can be printed. You can pre-register to bowl anytime before April 7th, and they just need to drop it off back to us, mail it in, or even give us a call. We've picked them up citywide so far. So that is our main event, and it's our only event for the year. We raise the money just from the bowling and from our business sponsors throughout the city.
You're still looking for items to donate for silent auction and
Yep, we are. So far, we have 47 business sponsors this year. Some of them are items that have been donated that we raffle off at the event. Some of them are items that are smaller prizes that we give away as door prizes as kind of like a thank you for people who are attending. And also some of those businesses just do a cash donation as opposed to donating. But we'll take any item, gift card, service, anything that anybody wants to donate. Again, it can be dropped off at the Clawson Police Department anytime before April 7th, or if they want to give us a call, the records department can leave a note in my mailbox and I just pick it up in the evening.
In regard to the scholarships, do you award one every year? Do you skip some years and then have multiple, depending on who's going into law enforcement in that graduating class?
It's a good question. We have actually awarded at least one up to 5 each year since 2010. But the requirements are that they do have to major in criminal justice or a related field. We did change that a couple years ago because the federal government often likes to see majors in other fields with a minor in criminal justice. So we have awarded a lot of scholarships actually in the last 3 years that are students that want to go into the federal law enforcement, one branch or another, and needed to major in accounting or something else. So Yep, but every year we have awarded one, and the money varies depending on how much we raise. And if ever we do have a year where we don't have an applicant, we would just keep it in our account and roll it over for the next year. So this year's scholarship applications are ready tonight, so they can be picked up at the police department or the Clawson High School. Students have to have them back to the Clawson High School counselor's office or the police department by May 15th, 2017 of this year. And they can get more information on the requirements when they pick up the cover sheet.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Wonderful job you guys do.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one.
Item number 6, a presentation from Sharice Myron. She's coordinator for the Crop Hunger Walk. Sharice, have at her.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight and speak about the Crop Walk and for approving us to host the Crop Walk again in Clawson this year. Just a little bit of information about the Crop Walk. It was started in the 1960s, and it was the first walk to raise funds for a charity. So it has a long history. This year is the 27th annual Crop Walk that is Troy Clawson. Last year we moved it to Clawson. We had the opportunity to relocate it. The host site was closing down, and so we raised our hand and said Clawson is an awesome town with great support, and we think it would be a really neat opportunity to host it here and really get the participation. The other interesting thing about it and that I really like and support is that 25% of the funds raised do stay locally. We have designated that 15% to the Clawson Food Pantry and 10% to Troy People Concerned as our two charities again for this year. Last year we had 150 participants and we raised almost $15,000. So that was a nice little chunk of money that stayed locally for us. This year our goal is 200 walkers and 18.5 as our fundraising. When we relocated it to Clawson, one of the things that we did was we created an after celebration and a kind of a pre-celebration for it. And a lot of the Clawson businesses were very supportive of us and donated items as well for raffles for the people that participated, just to have kind of an after meal and a little thank you for doing that fundraising. So this year's walk is it's on Sunday, May 7th. It starts and ends at Trinity Lutheran Church right on the corner of Bywood and 14 Mile. And basically the route goes east along 14 Mile down to Main Street. We do cross over into a little bit of Royal Oak on Normandy, then take Normandy down to Crooks back up to 14, and 14 straight back to Trinity. So it's a pretty easy route, but it has some really nice visibility through downtown Clawson and exposure for our businesses and our restaurants here and services. So apparently we're competing with the cops for donations, but we are out pedaling right now, and we have a lot of support from the local businesses last year and again so far this year. So donations can be anything from food for our after celebration, raffle items, and then also we have taken money donations towards our expenses to host it as well.
Where do you started at?
It starts and ends at Trinity Lutheran, which is on the corner of Bywood and
Right.
14 Mile.
Okay.
What if people want to participate and join the walk? Where do they
Yep.
look things up?
If they want to look it up, it's actually, we have a website. It's the www.crophungerwalk.org/TroyMI. And right there, they can register a team. They can sign up for a team that's already created. They can fundraise right online there this year, too. They're really, they're offering some nice rewards for doing fundraising online as well. So it's real easy to form a team. I have information. We also have it available at our church and various churches around town, and also organizations have signed up teams and have materials as well.
Well, you also need volunteers to help work it, and what type of job assignments will you be able to utilize people for?
For sure. We always need volunteers. Thank you. And we do have some nice volunteers coming so far from the AOK acting group is volunteering kids. We have a Order of the Eagle Boy Scout troop able to volunteer for us from the Troy area. But definitely any volunteers. We have registration. We have people along the route. We have photographers. We have just people. We have different stations at the registration that we can definitely assign people a job. So my phone number and email address are on the brochures as well as the coordinator, and that's out on the website as well. that people could look up there and get a hold of me for any questions, concerns, or to volunteer.
You said you have the brochures here in City Hall as well.
I do. I don't have any. I don't think that I left here, so I'm not sure if I can leave those tonight, or if
Sure.
I need to talk to someone. And
Could put them
do
up
that.
there.
That'd be
We've got a
wonderful.
community board out there that
Mark, we got a slot for it somewhere out there, right?
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Any other
Thank you
questions?
very much. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, starting off, item number 7, consideration of the second reading and adoption of an ordinance to repeal and replace ordinance number 590, adopted December 19th, 1996. I'll go with John on that.
Yeah, this was the Consumers Power Ordinance franchise renewal, and as you know, consumers did not approve the first one timely and concluded that now that it had been terminated, we had to redo the ordinance, so we're redoing the ordinance. So there you are. It's a second reading, and we're going to stick them with all the publication costs. If we don't, we'll shut off their power.
Yeah. That's a dirty word right now.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move the proposed ordinance to repeal and replace ordinance number 590, adopted December 19th, 1996, Appendix A, gas franchise of the Clausen Code of Ordinances, granting Consumers Energy Company, its successors, and assigns the right, power, and authority to lay, maintain, and operate gas mains, pipes, and services on, along, across, and under the highways, streets, alleys, bridges, waterways, and other public places, and to do a local gas business in the city of Clausen, Oakland County, Michigan, for a period of 20 years, be entered into second reading and adopted.
Support.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Olbrich?
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Horton?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 8, consideration of the introduction and first reading of an ordinance to repeal the following sections of the Clausen Code of Ordinances, because the ordinances are no longer viable, or in cases of the massage parlors, licensing of such a business is now regulated by the state of Michigan.
Right. There are a number of other provisions that are sort of outdated, antiquated, or no longer necessary, and so we're repealing those. And those sections basically deal with fortune telling. I can't recall the last fortune teller we had in town. Might have been around 1940. We have spitting in public. It's hard to enforce that. Borrowing from students. I don't think anyone would have money who's a student that you could borrow from.
Nobody carries cash anymore.
Yeah, they don't carry the credit cards. Radio and television interference prohibited. That would definitely be difficult to enforce because we don't have the equipment. School premises, pocket pagers, electronic communication devices, prohibition, exceptions, penalties. I think even the devices in there that are electronic are no longer in use. They're all different now. So that's antiquated. Offenses against public safety, destroying or injuring property, careless, reckless, or negligent use of bow and arrow. I think the last time that was done was probably in the 18th century. And then the other thing we have is operating without hands on handlebars. Believe me, that's difficult to enforce. And then there are a bunch of ordinances dealing with licensing of bicycles and so forth. The chief mentioned to me at one point in time, and this is an approximate number I remember, they had about 180 bikes that had been abandoned, picked up, and so forth that they sell. And they figure that the best way to do this is try to develop a policy and then market the policy on the registration of bikes. It's very important to register the bike because if it is lost or stolen, it might be picked up somewhere else. And if we have that registry and it's circulated amongst the police department network, then the person that loses a bike has a chance of getting it back. And that's what the name of the game is. So it's really a marketing idea to get rid of the enforcement language and work on a policy where people can protect themselves and be proactive in it. So that's what's coming along with these particular ordinances that we're repealing.
Thank you, Jim.
I do have two questions, Mr. Kingsup. The massage parlors, is the state language talks about massage therapy? Is that where it?
It's, the state handles the entire massage operation. And massage is a very broad definition. This ordinance I was involved in the preparation of this ordinance, and when there was a lot of illicit massage parlors going on. In fact, the police chief at the time and I met with a detective in Utica, who was nationally known on massage parlor operations and how they began, how they operated beyond state lines, how they trafficked in money and women and abusing them and so forth. It was really stunning. So that's how this ordinance was developed at that time. Eventually, as we get into the beauty culture of facial massages, body massages, and different types of techniques from a health standpoint that are very beneficial, the state decided to step in about 2 or 3 years ago and develop a licensing procedure. I looked at that licensing procedure. It is extremely thorough, extremely complete on the background information that's necessary. So what we're doing now is repealing the ordinance. Your next step will be, when we come back with the new ordinances, will be an ordinance that will be the licensing ordinance. It allows us to regulate the license within the community from the standpoint of enforcement and the right to suspend if something happens that is contrary to the license operation. So that's where we're going next, is in that area.
And I had a question regarding the fortune telling being eliminated now.
What?
The fortune telling?
Yes.
Now, will that be replaced with anything? Because
No.
I know that there's a psychic building on Maple Road in Troy at Livernois. And so would something like that be allowed to come because we have not, will be
I would say it would.
zoning or?
I would say it would. If it's a business that's coming in, and it has to go before, well, it's going to go before two places. Number one, if it doesn't require site plan approval because it's going into an existing building that doesn't require improvements, they have to be licensed. So that process itself, we might have to work on the content of the license. I mean, your question is a very good one, on the content of the license. If, for instance, it's a site that is going to be changed and has to go site plan review, that's going to be an entirely different process. Because in that process, not only will the Planning Commission and administration come into play regarding the actual functionality of the business, but also the conditions of operation of the business. So they can possibly put conditions on the business in that context. So there's some regulation, one less than the other.
Thank you.
When will the new ordinance be replaced? I mean, when will we replace this ordinance?
The contemplated schedule is to have the first one to you the first meeting of next month. I'm going to be candid with you. Given my particular schedule, it will probably be the second meeting.
And then I did have one more question, if I could. I noticed that in this repeal ordinance, we aren't addressing the backing into marked spaces ordinance.
It was supposed to be in there. It was in there initially.
Okay. It's not here, not there now.
Your point's well taken.
It was redacted.
Hey, listen, when I do this stuff, you can never tell my state of mind. But I know I had it, because
Okay.
I remembered it vividly.
Is that something that we could introduce at the next meeting, or could we amend this now?
I will tell you now that if you want to, you can make an amendment that, from the standpoint that it was initially to be included, and it will be included. So that would be nothing but a reading that would essentially say that Article Section such and such, dealing with backing in, is hereby repealed in its entirety. It would be the same language. So it's a technicality, but it will be in the next documentation to you.
So can I amend this, or should
Sure.
we wait?
Amend this.
Okay.
Amend this.
Mayor, I move the proposed ordinance to repeal the following sections of the Clausen Code of Ordinances because the offenses are no longer viable, or licensing of such a business is now regulated by the state of Michigan, be entered into first reading with the following amendment. Section 78122.8.22b regarding backing into marked parking spaces also be repealed.
Support.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Maris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yes.
Moving on to item number 9, consideration of the introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2 Admission, Article 1, in general by adding a new Section 2.2 entitled Mayor Appointments.
Right, this is the one that was before you on 2 previous meetings for discussion purposes, and now I believe has all the comments in it that were suggested as additions, and so it is now before you on a first reading. And what this does, our ordinances, the charter has one ordinance on mayor appointments, and that can only be changed by going through the state of Michigan. The other appointments to boards and commissions, about 7 or so in number, are in the Code of Ordinances, but they're in different sections, and some of the language is different as well. So the wisdom of the council was, let's have it in one section, and we put that under administration, and that section will cover appointments to all of the boards that operate, like Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Traffic and Safety, and so forth. And so that's what this does now. It sort of synthesizes the location of the power and also covers the particular provisions that had that and had to be restated because the language was deleted.
Your Honor, I move the proposed ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1, in general by adding a new Section 2-2 entitled Mayor Appointments be entered into first reading.
Support.
Now, I do want a discussion on one thing. This came up, and this was an informal discussion internally about the Traffic and Safety Board on whether that is still a viable board. And there was some discussion because there's a difficulty having members constitute quorum to act on business, let alone what is the business that goes before that. And so this is on here, and I think that if you want administration to make a report back to you at the next meeting on whether that should still remain, I think it might be appropriate to do so by having the chief and the city manager compile a report and send it to you. But there was some internal discussion about the necessity of that.
And actually, that's the next ordinance. We have one more. This
Okay.
one, yeah, this one is just the mayoral appointment process.
Right.
Yeah.
Call roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Maris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Yes.
Item number 10, consideration of the introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances to repeal and restate in amended form certain sections involving appointments on boards, commissions, and committees by the mayor and council as delined further herein.
This is Cynthia's, right? Yeah, this is the attorney for the Fire Pension Board periodically submits ordinance changes that come about as a consequence of changes in state or federal law.
No.
That's the next one.
I'm sorry.
Oh, is that?
I'm sorry.
No, okay.
This is the actual.
You're one ahead of us.
Yep.
Okay,
One
sorry.
step ahead.
This one, we're actually dissolving the Cable Television and Internet
Yeah,
Services
sorry.
Advisory.
Right. Got ahead of myself.
I didn't know.
Oh, I was looking at this.
I knew that was the next one.
That's the next one, okay. I picked that up.
Item 10, John.
Yeah. Oh, he's jumping ahead.
I think this is the one, if you want us to, the chief and I, to report back about the Traffic and Safety Board. before
I
your
would like to
action.
know about that. Oh, I know the Traffic Safety Board has not met for quite a while.
Probably close to 2 years.
Yeah.
Since they had a
Yeah.
quorum, so they met, but they never had a quorum, so they
Right.
dismissed.
We can move forward with this tonight, though, all right? Mayor, I move the proposed ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances to repeal and restate in amended form certain sections involving appointments to boards, commission, or committees by the mayor and council as delineated further herein be entered into first reading.
Support.
Okay.
Shall I call the roll, please?
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Maris.
Yes. Item number 11, consideration of introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 7, Boards, Commissions, and Authorities, Division 3, Fire Department Pension Board of Trustees, which clarified the board trustees.
And you have my comments.
There you go.
This is from the attorney for the Fire Pension Board. And as I said, periodically, these come about state, federal law changes.
Call the roll.
No, we need a motion.
We need a motion on this. I'm sorry.
You do.
Mayor, I move the proposed ordinance to amend the Clausen Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administrative, Article 7, Boards, Commissions, and Authorities, Division 3, Fire Department Pension Board of Trustees, which clarifies the board trustees be entered into first reading.
Support. John, it looks like we're adding an option for a retired member? Is that what this is?
Retired and invested deferred, because the situation is, city manager is also a trustee on the board. We currently have a member who's the board chair, who is retiring from the department because he's moving out of the city. But he'll be a vested deferred member, and there was no provision, it had to be active. So discussion amongst, and they took it back to the fire department as well, was it's a valued member. He definitely wants to stay on as trustee. Does an excellent job, and they thought, let's make change to allow that. So I think, again, unanimously, this was a wise move, and the trustee attorney recommended that the language would need to be changed, so that's what this is doing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is that item number 12?
Roll call.
What we get?
Roll call.
I vote
Roll call, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Councilmember Olbrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Maris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton.
yes.
Item number 12, consideration of receiving and filing the 2017 Determination of Compensation Commission. The Compensation Commission met on Tuesday, March 14th to review the salary for the City Council for each meeting attended from July 1st, 2017 until June 30th, 2019. The Commission has approved to increase the current salary for the mayor and city council members from $30 a meeting to $40 a meeting for 35 meetings annually, not to exceed $1,400 per person. There was no change to the per diem amount, staying at $100 per diem for each state and national meeting attended, not to exceed $1,300 per person. No formal action except to receive and file is needed on the matter if the City Council wishes for the determination to become effective July 1st, 2017 until June 30th, 2019.
We don't need a motion to receive and file.
Yeah. Motion to receive and file would be good.
Make a motion to receive and file.
Support.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Maris,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich.
Yes.
Excuse me. Consideration of list of bills as presented.
Mr. Mayor, pay the bills.
Support. No questions.
Call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes?
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley.
Yes.
Moving on here, the city attorney report.
Yes, I have one report. You're all aware that Clausen was the subject of a class action suit arising from the August 2014 flood. Our suit before Judge McMillan has been stayed because Oakland County raised certain motions that were denied. That's now in the Court of Appeals. I received a call from the plaintiff's attorney to advise me that, although we don't have to appear, we are, that Judge McMillan now has all of the flood cases. They were dispersed previously amongst 3 or 4 judges in Oakland County. He just filed 8 more. And they're now all assigned to Judge McMillan, and there is going to be a status conference on the first week or second week of April with all counsel to discuss how we're going to process this. I have been involved in cases of this size in the past, and they're very difficult for the court to really manage it with some semblance without cooperation of counsel in bickering. And I already have some ideas that I might propose when I'm at that meeting, but that's where we are right now. She has about 16 of these cases, and it's going to be her life for the next 5 or 6 years.
Will there be any decision made on the county suit before?
There's been an interim opinion issued by the court on a technical basis where they held in favor of the county, but the other part of it has yet to be argued. If they're asking for argument, they have all the briefs, but they haven't done anything yet. I would suspect, based on the county's tenacity with respect to that motion and the basis for it, that they may take an appeal if they get an adverse decision to the Supreme Court of Michigan.
Take years.
No, the Supreme Court of Michigan, no, they'll decide it in less than 8 months if they get it. They operate pretty quickly on interim appeals. But this is a thorny one, and I will say this, that the judge that signed the opinion on the interim order that was issued happened to be the author of an opinion of one of the key cases on the flood statute. And I don't know whether he will be the author of the opinion, but I do know what his thinking was as expressed by his opinion in that other case, which, from my sense, was positive. Very positive.
Good. Anything else?
No, nothing else.
I got one question, John Bowman. I see the sign's down, hasn't been up for a month for the for sale.
Well, I'll get on it again. It's an abandoned house.
Sorry. It's just, looks terrible.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Well, and I'm just curious, is there any, is the house on Roth and High on the radar at all at this point? The one that nobody was in since the flood and all the mold, and I know that at one point city staff scurried somebody out. I saw that it's for sale online. I don't know what the address is.
It is on the radar, because I know Jim said it.
Yeah, it's on the radar. There are a couple of houses on Roth.
Northwest
Yeah, and
corner.
I can't identify that one
Roth and
particularly
High.
right now, but I'll get back with you, or Mark will.
The spring's coming and the warm weather's coming, and it's going to continue to be a problem.
Right, very definitely.
Any more questions for the attorney? City manager.
Just one item to report. I completed initial budget reviews with the department heads today. I will have a draft budget to council before April 6th, which will give you time to review before our first department head city council budget workshop, which I believe is on the 11th. And then the 5-year budget, which I will have complete as well. I think I will wait until I got the draft approved, numbers approved by councils, because a lot of the subsequent years will depend on what council approves in 17, 18. But you'll have that soon thereafter, so you will have it before you adopt. In fact, I think we'll probably have it on that second meeting in May to adopt, receive and file, adopt, whatever you wish, the 5-year budget. And we'll use that as kind of our work document going forward, use it as a rolling budget. For each year, we'll update the year, and the numbers moving forward will update. So I think it's good practice. I'm really pleased with BSNA and the tools they offer. I think it's going to be a great tool for us. So I should have that for you. Like I said, the 17-18 draft will be to you by April 6th, hopefully sooner. I'm waiting until the 6th because the post-border review numbers impact the revenue. I didn't check. I believe Border Review met again today. As a matter of fact, is meeting now. They just wrapped up maybe at 8. And I think this was the last day. So I usually get numbers from the county fairly quickly. So usually that first week of April, I get solid numbers for Border Review. And then that'll impact our Headley rollback, which will be significant. Again, we'll have very little increase in property tax revenue, which is good for the taxpayers, but unfortunately bad for the city as far as budgeting goes. But we'll have some numbers to review, and capital as well. We'll go through and continue making the 5-year capital plan part of it as well. So nothing new. We're facing what everyone else is. It'll be as lean as we can get it, and council will have options for, as we've discussed, sidewalk as part of our goal setting, sidewalk program, road and infrastructure going forward, how we're going to fund that, and doing our best to stagger if we can. I know council's wishes to try and let some of the millage come off before we add more. Hopefully that'll be a feasible option, but I commend the voters here every time we go out. They support us, and it's certainly their call in all of this, but we've had great support, and we hope we'll be able to continue to deliver on what we promise, which I think we've done really well in the last 10 years. So that's all I have.
Yeah, things aren't getting any cheaper out there, that's for sure.
No.
Any more questions to the city manager? All right, moving on to unfinished business. I have one question, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to register their bikes, are we doing that now, or is this something we're going to start, or?
Yeah, we have a form available. Is it at the clerk's office, Michelle, or do they do it in the police?
Department.
Police. Okay,
Yeah.
it's the police. So yeah, we don't get many. It seems like we maybe get a couple every year, but hopefully with these ordinance changes, more people will do as the city attorney recommended and get them registered, because they do it. It's really is surprising how many bikes get found, turned in. I mean, similar to carjacking, but if somebody takes off on a bike, oftentimes they'll ditch the bike somewhere and get to where they're going and leave it, and then that gets claimed by the police department, and it stays until they sell it. But if it's registered, they can track the registration and find out who owns it, and hopefully somebody will get their bike back. So we do encourage it. It's not a revenue moneymaker. It's peace of mind, I think, for an individual who owns a bike and may lose it. And you would be surprised how many of them, they're not taking them and stripping them for parts, so not like a vehicle, but a lot of times somebody will hop on a bike without transportation, take it somewhere, and just leave it, and it'll be recovered by a neighbor or somebody, and the police go and confiscate it. So I would encourage people to do that.
Is there a cost to register?
There is, and I don't know that it's very
$2.
much. Yeah, it's $2.
Nominal, yeah.
$2. And
Well, $2 to register your bicycles, and
If it's not available online, can we get that
Yeah,
as an option online?
I can check with Mike, and we can get that added.
We sold dozens of bikes in our last police auction.
we have something coming up the 25th of this month, I believe, isn't it? You do. That will be at the DPW, correct, Mark?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
I believe
Yeah, we
it's
have bike auction, what have you. I think it starts at 9 a.m. in the morning, DPW this Saturday.
Also some equipment as well for the DPW we'll be selling. I think Doug was still working on the list. I don't know that he got it done yet, but.
Okay, moving on to new business. New business, senior all-night spirit crawl fundraiser, March 25th, 6:30, beginning at the Eagles Club. March 27th, Eagle Scout fundraiser at Montage Grill, noon to 9 p.m. for Jim Richards. 10% of the check receipt goes towards Eagle project of purchasing and planting trees. March 27th, Clawson Cops versus Kids basketball game at Clawson High School. 7 o'clock, $3 admission. And March 27th, Community Network free bowling night at Bowl 1. What do we got? That's 6 o'clock starts. Excuse me, March 27th. Well, Gary Chambers fundraiser at Montage Grill. 10% of check will go to Gary to assist family while Gary continues with cancer treatments. April 1st, indoor treasure sale at Hunter. That's at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. April 8th, Easter egg hunt at Clawson City Park, sponsored by Youth Assistance. And, of course, that lasts about 2 minutes. Once we drop the eggs, it's gone. And that, I think, covers everything I've got. We can open up public discussion. Anybody want to come up? Come on up. State your name, address.
Hi, my name is Dinar Van Dressuk. I am a resident at 266 East Elmwood Avenue.
Okay. Welcome.
Thanks. This is the first city council meeting that I've attended while here in Clawson. I had just a quick set of questions for you. I was wondering what would be involved in getting a waiver for no parking signs on public roads for a private function.
Such as having a party at your house and
Yeah.
for that night you want it.
No parking signs waived.
You live on
No
Elmwood?
parking signs, or to roll back the no parking ordinance from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.?
The no parking signs.
For one night?
Yeah, I was wondering what would be involved in that process.
I think if you talk to the chief here, it may not be a problem.
You call the police department and let them know the license plate of the number of the car that's going to be left there overnight. But is it that there's no parking allowed on Elmwood at all?
No parking allowed.
That's a different.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to park on Elmwood at
Okay.
all.
Either direction.
There are no exceptions to this?
I don't believe that. What's your take on that, John?
I don't think there is on that because of the way it's an access route of both
Yeah, I think
Troy
it's a county
and
road too, isn't it?
Clawson, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is why there's no parking allowed on that road.
Then I'd also like to let you know that the police have repeatedly stated that this council has approved waivers of no parking signs on that road on a regular basis.
That'd be the first that I've ever heard of it.
I've never
I
heard of
understand
that,
if you are on a different, on a residential, I hate to say residential street, but on Roth, for example, if somebody's going to be there between the 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. and they call the police department and let them know that they're going to stay there, then they can excuse that ticket for that evening.
I have, on several occasions, called the Clawson or after hours Troy Police Department and put in a report that people were parking along East Elmwood where there are no parking signs. They returned and told me that the police chief, or on other occasions, the city council, had approved the no parking signs being waived or being covered on some occasions.
I've been on council for more than 10 years now. We've never had anything like that brought in front of us.
Okay.
No.
At all.
I
Now,
bring
those
this.
are generally not decisions of the council.
No.
It's a, what's it?
Traffic control.
Control offer, TCO, a traffic control order that's issued by the police department in any instances like that, but not by council. They do not do TCOs.
If you leave me your information, contact information, I'll talk with the chief tomorrow and have him get a hold of you to see if it is
Okay.
Chief Anderson. I'll have him know. If it's allowable.
My question was because if it was fully under the police's discretion, I would have expected you to direct me to them.
See, and I'm wondering if Troy Dispatch may have a different,
They deferred to the Clawson Police Department.
Clawson Police Department or Clawson City Council?
They said that they were informed by the Clawson Police Department that it was approved.
Okay, number one, you're down in East Elmwood, so you're
East
down
Elmwood.
there where the apartments are, right?
Yes.
Yep.
You're in the apartment there,
Yes.
and you need that much space to park for a party? I mean, you're having a big
No.
party.
No, I think people are
I
doing
was-
it, and he's trying to find out why it's
Yeah.
being allowed.
Okay.
I think it's probably more the issue.
Yeah. I began with that statement because I wanted to know the process so I could review it
Okay.
first.
Well,
But
we can
since there
inform the
wasn't-
chief and have him start watching that a little bit closer for you. When do you see it more so on the, on the weekends?
It's especially present now on Fridays. The event is essentially the Clawson Rotary Club. They will park along the street, sometimes covering up the no parking signs. Making turns from Livernois Main Street onto East Elmwood is especially dangerous during that time because a right-hand turn will be blind to oncoming traffic, and the speed limit there is 35 miles an hour. While it is a wider road, it is both residential and commercial. So semis sometimes use it, though rarely at that time of night. And also there are several potholes on that road. So when cars do travel down it, going 35, sometimes more, sometimes less, they will not always be fully in their lane, which is understandable.
Exactly.
And I've had a couple close encounters when making right turns when people are parking there.
You said Rotary, you mean KFC, right? The Knights of Columbus on the corner.
Yes.
Yeah, Knights
Sorry.
I was going to say, the
Knights
Rotary, I
of
think, is about
Columbus.
10
Sorry
people.
about
So
that.
you're saying if there's a wedding or something there, if they're renting the hall out, that
Or like tonight.
It's
Fish fry dinners, I'm guessing
I
this
think
time
it's
it's
the
Lenten
fish fry dinners,
dinners.
right now. But yeah, there are some other occasions through the year, but it's especially prevalent now.
okay? Because if someone told you that you can call the police department and get a waiver, you can, but generally it's only on residential areas where someone might call, or I've had someone has a car breakdown, they leave
Yeah.
a note and they'll call,
No,
and it's a one night only thing, but as a general rule, there is not some blanket order which allows someone
That
to
was
cover a sign or park.
That was my understanding. That's why I asked the council if there was a process in place for waiving those no parking signs.
Not to my knowledge.
I drive down there 2 or 3 times, I'm not going to say a day, but at least once every day I drive down there, and I don't think I've ever seen a sign covered, but if you say they are, I believe you. But,
They're covered or ignored.
On Friday, fish fry
well,
nights,
ignored's
probably.
different than covered.
Covered,
If it's covered, then it's been done deliberately. If someone's just parking there and throwing caution to the wind, then that's...
It depends on the evening. They park there, and sometimes they are covered.
So it's bingo night, I would assume, and fish fry evening, or just fish fry evening specifically?
It's especially prevalent now, but occasionally it will occur at other times during the year.
We'll let the chief know and have him,
At least we'll get an answer. I've not seen it.
I haven't either.
Yeah, see, well, it's so busy on Friday nights, I don't drive down there, but
Right.
I know the road is, I avoid the potholes, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I live
Yeah.
right over in that section, so I completely understand.
Thank you.
Thank you
thank
for coming and voicing
Thanks
your
for
concern.
bringing it to our attention.
Bernard, is it? Could you stay until we're done here and we can get your contact information? Would that be
Sure.
okay? Okay.
I'd like to have the chief get a hold of you, if you wouldn't mind. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more for public discussion? Okay, moving on.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Support?
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Councilmember Olbrich,
Yes.
Councilmember Woolley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. It's very nice when
Yeah, we like to hear any
we
problems.
like.